didn't work. Hi everyone, welcome to eBizChat, where it's all about business. My name is Rick Zanotti, and I am joined today by Dr. Susan Nash. In studio, we've got Harold Muliati. He's our video producer. And we've got a great guest. She's a good friend of mine. We actually did something like 100 shows together. This is back 10, 12 years ago. It's been a long time. We were like teenagers then. So it was fun. That was called Shreck Tech. And we've got with us today Gina Schreck. A lot of people know who Gina is. Even people who don't know who she is know who Gina is. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Visit us at www.RELATECasts.net. Thanks. And we are back, and joining us in that center position of power, it's Gina Schreck. Gina, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to be back here and see you guys and catch up.
You look, as always, beautiful and great, and you are so busy. You're doing amazing things. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the business world. Now, everybody, I'll preface it a little bit. If you listen to the news, or if you listen to something like The Epic Economist, the world is coming to an end tomorrow. It may have already ended, but nobody told us. If you're a landlord, you must be committing suicide, and the gallows are waiting for you. And yet, you're breaking all of those predictions, and you're actually doing very well as a quasi-landlord and somebody who's helping businesses grow. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and I've always loved watching trends, and so for 25 years, I've had my marketing agency, and we've had a marketing business. We still have our marketing business, Social Connects, and a couple years ago, we talked about having all of our marketing. There's our website here, but we talked about having our team move into an office. So we started looking at commercial spaces. We just couldn't find one we really liked. And then I kept seeing all these cool co-working spaces, and I thought, maybe we need to move into a co-working space. And again, we kind of looked at some, didn't find one we liked. And one day I was kind of joking, saying, maybe we just need to open our own, and then we can rent out the other spaces. And the idea just kept churning, and I thought, I'm going to contact a broker, and I'm going to just look at some buildings and see. So about 2 years ago, because it was a 6-month process just to negotiate the lease, and then we found the space, we did the build out here, and then we opened the Village Workspace March. There's a picture of our cafe area at the Village Workspace. We opened March 2nd, 2020, right before a world pandemic. The perfect time.
Excellent timing.
But it did turn out to be a great time for co-working, because so many businesses all went home, and then some of them decided, instead of having a space for 40 employees and paying rent and paying for the Wi-Fi and the cleaning service and everything else, maybe we get 5 offices and we just rotate people in a co-working space. So we've seen a lot of that, where people have left a larger space and they come in and do more flex space work in our spaces. And then we had some people that were working from home, and they said, I can't work from home, I'll go crazy. And so they also came in. So at the Village, we have 27 private offices, and we have 5 conference rooms, training rooms, we have nap rooms, we have a big fitness center. So people can come here, and we have enough space and privacy in their own offices that they can be socially distanced. Now everything's kind of back to, we're seeing things kind of coming back as they were, a little more close to how they were. And so then 2 months ago, I had the opportunity to open Barnworx, and Barnworx is another co-working place. And that one was a commercial realtor who had started to do a build a bunch of beautiful offices. He even put all these beautiful high-end, beautiful stand-up desks and very expensive furniture, but people weren't coming in. He was hoping a company would come in and take up this space. Then he thought, well, maybe I'll turn it into co-working, but he didn't know anything about co-working. So he approached me and said, hey, let's partner, and you run it. I'll own the building, and we'll split the profits. So now, 2 years into it, I have 2 spaces and still Social Connects.
That's great.
Yeah,
So what
pretty
do you
crazy.
do?
But I've learned a lot about marketing and things along the way.
Yeah, and you knew a lot about marketing anyway.
I knew a lot about marketing, but a lot of things that were very interesting for local businesses that we knew, but now we had to apply them, and the things that and so it's been interesting to use my marketing background in these two physical spaces. And I feel like I've spent so much time building authority in the digital marketing
Mm-hmm.
space, blogging and podcasting and doing videos and doing so many things to build that authority that when people talk about social media, they say, oh, you need to go talk to Gina. Well, now in the co-working industry, totally new business for me. I thought, okay, I'm starting from ground zero. How do I start to build authority? And so it's been interesting because now it's always been practice what you preach for our other business, but now you really have to do things differently, like getting out there and networking again in person. At local events. I wasn't networking at chamber events or local groups. And so having to get involved in that type of networking again was different for me.
Well, that's so interesting. I have a question for you. Two things, really. Okay, the first is, I guess you're close to a fairly large population center. So
Yes,
that probably...
We're in Denver Metro, but we're not downtown Denver. So we're about 30 minutes south of downtown Denver. So there's a high density of co-working spaces downtown. I did not want to be downtown because there's a lot of competitors. And people were at a stage, especially with everything going on, saying, I don't want to be downtown. I don't want traffic. I don't want to pay for parking. I don't want to deal with, for a while, we had riots downtown. We had all the protests downtown. So we moved into the suburb area. And that was where I kept saying, this is where people are going to say, I don't have to commute anymore. I want to find an office close to my house. So we have a 13,000 square foot space in a suburban neighborhood area, but yet it is highly dense suburban area.
So is that like near toward the airport, or?
No. So the airport, from downtown, we're just south. So the airport is east of downtown. We are in the Denver Tech Center area. So it's Centennial, Inglewood area. And that's just between Denver and Colorado Springs. We're right there.
Okay. Oh, great. And then my second question is a quick one. So let's say that you own commercial real estate and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Is it very hard to do what you did?
If you own a building, what I've learned is there's two different co-working businesses. There's co-working as a business where you just sell offices, and those are like the Regis and Office Evolution. You see a lot of those. Then there's co-working as a community, and I see that as kind of like a movement where you're really trying to get entrepreneurs into a space to connect people, to host events. So there's educational events on how do you help these people build their business. And we do events on everything from how to grow a more valuable business so that you could eventually sell it someday. Profit first. How do you take your income as a business and your revenue and actually make it profitable as a business owner? We have lots of educational events. So we see co-working as a movement and more as a community, and that's the model that we chose to do. So if I own a building, it's really hard to do the co-working as a movement or community because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of events and a lot of hospitality touches versus co-working as a business. You can build an office out to suite, but you still have to make sure you have somebody there to take care of people, who greets people when they come in, who makes sure that there's coffee made in the morning and gets to know. So there's those aspects of it. And so a lot of businesses a lot of commercial realtors, they own a building and they'll say, oh, we're just going to turn it into co-working. And then it fails because they didn't really think about the community aspect.
Now, what kinds of businesses or what kind of individuals and businesses are going into these co-working spaces?
Yeah, in here we have a title company, we have a realtor, we have insurance company, we have an SEO company. So we have an association in here. The association has 20 employees. but they've rented 5 big offices.
Okay.
And what they do is they all come in for meetings in our boardroom, and then they go, some of them stay working from home during the week. And so it's a real variety. We have a therapist, we have a counselor, financial planners. Yeah, so it's a big variety.
That's pretty good. Now, what's the most challenging thing about owning a space like this?
It is interesting because we've kind of learned dealing with different personalities. Because you have the person who's a loud talker, and everybody's going, you make that person be quiet.
Yeah.
You have the people who are always complaining, the temperature's too hot, the temperature's too cold. The coffee is too weak, the coffee is too strong. So realizing that, wow, and what's funny is we have 2 spaces. The Village Workspace is more female focused. So we have probably 90% female, 10% male. And then Barnworx is more male focused, and it's reversed. There's only, I think, 4 women that work at Barnworx, and the rest are men. At Barnworx, we laugh because you could have, the coffee could be cold, the temperature could be freezing, nobody says anything. You'll see one of the guys with a blanket, and I'm going, wait, is it cold back there? He's like, oh yeah, it's really cold. I was like, you need to come and tell us so we can fix that. At the Village, if the temperature goes down 1 degree, 2 degrees, people come up here and they're like, it's freezing back here.
That's funny. Now you did learn an important rule about that. Whenever you have a lot of women, you hide all thermostats. No thermostat is available because they will figure out a way to crowbar them open and get into them. We've seen it.
It's been that has been our battle at the Village, is just everybody who's having too hot, too cold, and they sit there and complain that the coffee is this, the coffee is that. At Barnworx, they're like, oh yeah, usually, because we were asking them, what kind of coffee do you like? They go, well, I usually just drink, Folgers or something. We're like, oh my gosh, these are like the easiest they're low maintenance people here. So yeah, that's been one of our big learnings, is just dealing with the different personalities. On the marketing side, just the importance of your local marketing, which, I mean, Google My Business. If you are a local business, you have got to spend time and effort weekly posting to Google My Business, because that will move you up in rankings better than anything, that and your reviews. And so we've learned a couple of strategies around that.
Well, so in Houston, there are a number of spaces that have been turned into kind of community working types of things. So they tend to be tech accelerators or incubators. Have you thought of going that way?
No, because of the demographic in this area. So in Boulder and North Denver, it's a very much a high tech, and there's a lot of those type of tech incubators. And down in the suburban areas, we see that we have a lot more. There's a lot of digital marketing. There's a lot of video folks. There's a lot of the financial planners. So I think our mix was very different in this area. But yeah, definitely you have to look at who's within 15 minutes of driving, because when you think of co-working, people aren't going to drive an hour. They're not going to drive 45 minutes to get to co-working. They'll do that if they have to go there for a job. But when you look at co-working, you have to say, who's within my 15-minute drive? That's who I'm going to attract. And so our mix is different than that. But we do really want to focus on those startups as well as the established businesses to say, how do we help the startups? And right now, I like looking at, there's so many women because of COVID who have had to now juggle kids doing school at home. Maybe they're caring for other family members, during this, who have been, sent home. And so I think a lot of them are leaving their careers. A lot of women are saying, I just can't work because there's too much I have to juggle here. So I'm really trying to focus on how do we help women, whether they bring we have a kids room at the Village where you can bring your kids in to work with you, and they go in your office, and we have toys, and we have a nap room in case you need a nap after everything that's going on. But we're really looking at how do we help moms not totally disengage from the workplace, come in and stay plugged in, network, bring your kids if you have to, but don't leave your career if at all possible.
Well, one thing that I think one thing I think we're going to see a lot of people are predicting this, is when travel comes back, it's going to come back in such a dramatic and overwhelming way that people need to like be anticipating it. And so what a great way to say, if you're out of work or something, find a niche or something that you like within like travel and trade show, whatever, and grab it. and
it's funny because we have a travel agent that works at the Village. She has an office here, and so we've been, it's been fun hearing the trends with travel, and how about a month ago she said, I'm starting to get bookings for families, for weddings, or larger groups, instead of just the 1 and 2 person getaway. First, I thought it was amazing that there's still travel agents. And then second, I thought it was cool to hear her talk about the trends in travel.
She must be one of the few travel agents left.
I know. She usually books a lot of large group event travel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now,
I think there's still a lot of that. Yeah.
Now, what do you foresee as some of the future? For example, a lot of large companies have closed campuses. I mean, I know some particularly that big financial institutions, companies are just saying, we don't need a 1,500 or 3,000 person campus anymore. So now what they're doing is they're getting mini, I had a word for it, but yeah, it's like 200 person offices versus 1,500, and they're rotating people like you said, they're rotating people in and out. They may be putting some people more in than out, other people more out, but it gives them the flexibility of saving a ton of rent money, tons, and yet still maintaining a certain office presence, a certain marketing presence, and the ability to keep people in offices for sales or marketing, for example.
But there's challenges when you send everybody home. There's mental health challenges. There are some people that are experiencing higher levels of depression, higher levels of stress. They need that camaraderie. They don't have that person to bounce ideas off, and yet they love the flexibility. So I think companies are going to look at, I think employees and employers are saying, we can be productive at home. We've now proven we can all work from home. That doesn't mean we should always be working from home. So I think companies are doing that. They're saying, let's create small satellite offices, flex space, whether that's in a co-working space or whether that's just a small space that they rent and they run it like their own co-working. That's just called flex officing. And so, they're finding ways to say, how can we allow employees to do either one? Like we have a woman here, she works at a software company, and she comes in a couple days a week, just works in our hot seat area because she said, I don't want to work from home by myself all the time. But yet she doesn't have to come in. So she works from home sometimes, she works from here sometimes. And I think that's going to be something that won't go away. I think that's going to increase because companies are going to say, all right, maybe we don't need everybody commuting an hour into town, in traffic, the stress of that, into cubicles, to sit on a Zoom call anyway in their office, So now I think companies are realizing, all right, maybe we look at a more flexible way to work.
I think that's especially the case when you're doing something that involves planning or strategic planning, and you've got to be able to have that kind of body language, eye-to-eye and trust building as well. And you can kind of do it via Zoom, but not really. And you don't get the same flow of ideas. And so if you're involved in something that's actually brand new and launching it, or something that you are super excited about, and you have a little team, you can't beat it. I'm not saying it should be 100% all the time face-to-face, but having some, like you're talking about.
Yeah, we even have work teams that they're all working from home, but they'll rent a conference room here once a month, and they just come in the conference room and they just do their meetings, their brainstorming, their collaborative time, and then they go back and they're working from home again. Yeah, we need that, and I think it's just providing those options that allow people to get to choose where they want to work. Even our marketing team, we have an office here, but our marketing team works from home sometimes. They'll live in the Denver metro area, and then they all come into the office at times. And so like tomorrow, we're all meeting in here because we have to brainstorm a whole email marketing campaign. that's a real complex one. We said, well, let's all meet in the office in the morning and let's lay it all out on a whiteboard, and then you can go do it from wherever you want. So it's nice to have that flexibility.
So what do you think the future portends for this kind of situation? Do you think, because there's a lot of landowners or landlords right now who are really struggling, from what I've been reading, economically, because they've lost, these big companies have left, or they've gone under or whatever, and they're stuck with a lot of property. I read recently that I think 25% of the malls in the U.S. have closed. That's a lot of malls.
Yeah. It is interesting because I've seen some malls turning into what, they're called the work, live, and play. And they're turning them into where they have condos, they have co-working, and they have like recreational things and social events and things all in one spot. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think there's so many vacant buildings right now that are just ghost towns. I think long term, I think they'll come back. If you think of just cyclical nature of business, people are going to say, we need a bigger office. We need more people. Like once everyone's vaccinated and they're back to normal, so-called normal, I think we're going to see those come back. But I still think we've now done this leapfrog over. I mean, look at everyone does Zoom calls. A year and a half ago, some people still didn't know how to log into a Zoom call. Everybody now scans a QR code at the restaurants. A year and a half ago, there were still a lot of people that didn't know how to access a QR code. So I think we've seen this advance in technology use and the advance in, okay, we don't have to work the way we used to, but I don't think that's going to mean they'll be gone forever. But I do think some of these larger buildings are going to turn into other things, such as the work, life, and work. And I think the work, life, and play, and I think the turning them into condos and workspace and recreation, I've seen a lot of that start. So that's kind of fun.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think there are going to be some areas that are going to be so busy with ideas that those are the places to start. And then there will be other areas. I mean, we're going to have some changes. There's no doubt. I mean, our demographics will change, in terms of income distribution and industry. Some are booming and some are going to kind of change. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess picking out the leaders and leading edge, and then learning with that, and then applying those positive lessons to the ones that are struggling is really one path.
Right. Well, and I just think also, I mean, kind of like all of us, like you have to stay flexible enough, and as a business to stay in business for, I mean, I look at it and go, how have I been in business for 26 years? It's just by being flexible and looking for those trends and those openings. Those opportunities are everywhere, but not everybody sees them and takes action upon them. To me, it's businesses are going to have to look at what are the trends and the opportunities, and then how can they take action and upon them. And there's so many. I mean, there's some businesses that are thriving right now and booming. I mean, who would have thought if you were in the plexiglass business, you would be a rock star right now, and if you were making stickers, that you would be an amazing rock star business right now. I mean, nobody could have predicted that. But so I just think you have to be flexible enough. I mean, how many breweries, even here in Colorado, distilleries that suddenly are making hand sanitizers? So, if you can see that opportunity and then take action, and I think that's one thing I've always loved doing is what are the opportunities and trends, and how do we take action? And I think some of the challenges that I've seen, and just this is my own self-imposed beliefs, we get to a certain point in our life and I think, maybe I'm too old to start that, and maybe my ship has sailed on that idea. It was a good idea. I should have done it, but I waited too long, and so that ship has already sailed. And that's kind of where I was when I wanted to start the co-working space. I thought at my age, I think at the time when I thought of it, I was 55, and I thought, I can't start something at 55. I'm too old. The ship has sailed. And then I just went to bed, and my brain was just churning. I woke up, I was like, oh, the ship is still in the harbor. I need to jump on. And I just think, why not? Why not?
I just had an idea for how to turn a mall into a profitable enterprise.
Yes.
Well, okay, so I mean, I've been involved in all the energy transition things. It's like, what a perfect place to make a solar farm. Just because they're extensive, and then that could at least pay for the basics, and you can sell the energy into the grid, and then turn the other part into whatever.
That's true. I mean, if you just have to start looking at what are those opportunities with empty buildings, and what can they become, and what business ideas have we had that have been on the back burner that we're going, maybe there's some opportunities, that I hadn't thought of. Yeah.
I'd like to put solar panels over the top of the mall, so that would pay for things, and then inside have a miniature donkey farm and use those
donkeys, huh?
See, I think so. One trend
therapy donkeys.
Yep.
Donkey therapy. So now that ties into something that I think right now there's still a crisis in America that childcare is still so expensive for people. So if you could somehow, which is what we thought of doing it here at the village, could you put a daycare on site? So with your donkey farm idea, okay, you could have one floor is children. I'd put them upstairs because they could take the stairs and they're young. And put the young people, little kids upstairs. Then you have the co-working in the middle. And then downstairs you put senior care. So when you do turn 90, you move to the senior care and you do donkey therapy, bring the donkeys in for therapy. Like, there's our next business idea right there.
It works.
Yeah. I mean, I do look at things like, okay, our aging population. Where will all the seniors be? That's not just stuck in a nursing home, or how do we create more senior living? Like, we were laughing here, going, we're the village workspace right now, but in 20 years we can become the village senior center, and we can have activities for our senior care. I think
and you know what? That's perfect. It goes from masks to depends. It's wonderful.
Exactly. But there's, thinking that way, going, okay, we have a huge aging population. What is out there? Maybe we take some of these buildings, and could you create community centers, dance halls, activity places, pools? Yeah. So, more of those where you blend, seniors and maybe even daycares. I don't know. There's some connecting tissues there. Looking for those.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then the donkeys. I'm liking the donkey idea.
Well, and they have to be miniature. They can't be the big ones.
The little ones.
They have to be little ones, little tiny ones.
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier to clean up.
Goat yoga, donkey therapy, goat yoga. I'm loving it. Yeah.
Goat yoga. I'm trying to think about goat yoga. What's goat yoga?
I don't know, but I'm reading a great book that I'm recommending to people right now because I just love the concept. It's called the Serendipity Mindset. And it's all about looking at opportunities differently. And, we all have opportunities right now during this time everywhere. Some people will see them. Some people will only see the challenges of COVID. So we have to look at what are the opportunities and how do we lay out a plan to just take some action to explore ideas, or do some changes in my business to try something different that maybe during this time wasn't working. And I hear so many people, like you said, Rick, talking about it's all been doom and gloom and, oh, my business has tanked. And I was thinking, wow, during this past year, our business has grown because of the pandemic, because people came in looking for sanctuary to work. And now, not everybody, but the people who came in were the people wanting an office. How can you look at opportunities differently, and how can you be more open to opportunities and have a year of 2021, make it a year of saying yes to meeting with people that maybe in the past you said, I'm too busy to meet with these people. I'm too busy to go to that networking event. You just never know when you go somewhere and put yourself out there, you're going to connect with somebody and hear an idea, and it could grow into an opportunity that you didn't know was there before.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree.
There's my motivational talk for the day.
I was going to make
that's good.
I was going to make a little donkey noise to in agreement, but I'm afraid to.
Yeah. Rick is going, funny. Where did this show go?
I'm still thinking about goat yoga, so goat yoga.
Goat yoga.
I could see yak yoga maybe, but
that would break your back.
Gina, that music, it means it is about time for us to say goodbye for now.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing on the note that we've been on. It's time to say goodbye.
Hey, Gina, as always, it's a pleasure to see you and to catch some of that energy you've got, which is great. Because like you said, there's two ways to look at anything. And a third if you stop looking at both the other ones, but we won't go there. There's a lot of opportunities. You know, I lived in a country which had a lot of inflation. We were at 300 to 500% inflation for a while. And while a lot of people are really suffering from it, it's amazing how many people did something with it. And they worked around it. They just said, well, you know what? I'm not going to do what they're doing. I'm going to do what that person's doing or what I'm doing. And it worked.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So go grab the opportunity. Go invest in some donkeys. Build your business.
Yeah, and go forth and clean poops. Yep. Anyway. Gina, it's always a pleasure. I'm so glad to see you again. And for you people watching, thanks for being there. And we will be back next week with another episode of eBizChat. We'll see you soon. Oh, by the way, Gina, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way?
Just if you Google Gina Schreck, connect with me anywhere on any social channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Gina Schreck.
Gina Schreck. That's it. All right, everyone, have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.